Hi, everyone. I'm Stan Mallow. Welcome to Paranormal Yacker. My guest on today's show, who I'll be yakking with, is Ted Silverhand. Ted is a Tuscarora Seer. His wisdom and guidance has helped many people over the years. This includes celebrities such as the late and great Elvis Presley. Ted Silverhand, welcome to Paranormal Yacker.
Thank you. It's good to be here and welcome to the show. Thank you so much.
It's great. We go back, as you know, many years.
Yes.
And I have to say, you are one of those people who I may not see as often as I'd like to, but when we do get together, it's like no time has passed. We just continue from where we left off the last time we met. Now, as I stated in my introduction, you are a Tuscarora Seer.
Yeah.
Could you tell us about the Tuscarora people, their history, their traditions, their belief system?
The Tuscaroras, we are the hemp growers used to be, and in the old days, and in doing so, we lived in upstate New York, Canada, and also in North Carolina, and where that we would chase. We left New York State back 1,000 years ago and moved south. But in 1712, we were chased out of North Carolina back, and so we had to find our way back to New York State. And where we got into the areas of the Five Finger Lake area, and we went entered into the land of the Seneca. And the farmers there, the white settlers there, chased us out of there and took the land from us. Some made it into Canada. Others we ended up over in the areas of outside of Buffalo to the original that the reserve that's up here now on the other side of Buffalo, and so some still in New York in Canada, the other over in the areas of outside of Buffalo, and also the others are down in the areas of Hollister. I mean, not Hollister, but North Carolina, Tuscarora in North Carolina. In that area, it's called Drowning Creek Reservation is part of it. And so we've had a lot of ups and downs along the way. But we, as they said, we were the hemp growers in the old days, and we grew hemp and things of that back in those days. Yeah.
When did you first realize, become aware that you were indeed a seer, that you had been blessed with special gifts and spiritual insights that enabled you to help people and answer questions they may have about their dreams, visions, the future?
Well, my mother is what we call was a teller, and they're called seers or tellers. And my mother was a teller, and so is my grandmother. That name of coming in as a seer, uh, I never called myself a seer. This is what other people said I was in growing up. But around 12 years old is when I took my first 25 cents. That was my gift. But then my family refused to allow me to do anything because I didn't know enough until I was around 23 years old before I started with listening to the elders and all around and talking to others, um, asking questions from my grandmother, my mother, my father, and and understanding the dreams and what the dreams are about and all of that. It wasn't instant knowledge, because we're all students of life on this earth, and I had to learn and my father not only taught me and my mother and my brother and my sister, but it was three of us. And but it started at the age of technically 12, but then I traveled so much as a young child because I lived in Colorado, Denver. As a little boy, I was living at the Jewish National Home for Asthmatic Children out in Denver, Colorado. I was there for 3.5 years. Then I moved to a place called St. Elmo's. It was the Indian school for boys. And then I went away to school after the 5 years there. And so I've been all over, and I always felt that it was God's way of putting me to meet all peoples, all different types of people. So I didn't see it to be a punishment. I saw it to be still acquiring knowledge that I needed. And then in time, meeting with Rolling Thunder and living with Rolling Thunder and traveling with Rolling Thunder, talking, listening to him. And he also was seeking wisdom as well. But I learned from so many. It's like I'm said that someone says, gee, Ted, you're famous. No, I worked for famous people. Like everybody that I work for, I read for, I say they are famous.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How did you develop your gifts? Did you have mentors or guides who showed you the way? And if you did, what guidance, advice did they bestow on you?
Dream time was very important. And at the age of about 6, 7 years old, they started coming into the dream time. And then there was a woman named Bedabin. She came through the dream time, came into the room where in bed, and into the room she talked to me. And then she got, and all I could see was a shadow. And as she leaned in to speak with me, then later, 3 nights later, she came and she took me on a journey into the dream time. And I was to meet this council. I didn't know what she was talking about. And it was a lot of when I said the council of elders. But as she was pulling me on this dirt road in the dream time, I mean, when I say pulling me down as a little boy, make haste, make haste. I called her BB because I could not pronounce Bedabin until later. I understood Bedabin, which means first light, and that was her name. And then I went to this particular circle, and when I sat down, when she told me to sit down, as I sat down, and when I looked up, there were 13 elders, old men in the circle. She was the woman, and she stood by a water jug, and which she represented. Later, I found out she was of the women's circle, which are the women are the water bearers, and so one began to speak. Each of them was sitting on a little table, and you would turn and you're looking at each of their eyes, and they spoke with their eyes. And the spokesperson was Tall Pine, and he spoke and he told me. And of course, all I was so sickly as a child. All I wanted to know, were you going to make me well? And time that will come about, but you have to learn to suffer to understand. And of course, over the years and years, and in going back to the council, it was twice a week or whatever. And I was just sitting in the circle and not understanding, but I knew I was there for some reason. And when I would come back and wake up in the morning, and I would talk to my mom and my dad and everything, at first they didn't quite understand it. But then they began to say, this is not the discipline. They never said the boy was crazy. They just said they start understanding because certain things were being said and was way over my head. But in time, and then my grandmother started talking, and then she spoke of this. And so this is how things began to come together. And so
Wow.
I called him the Grand Council, my Grand Council. And they come in now, which sometimes they will channel in if they have something key to say, they will speak through me. But yet it's usually Tall Pine that would come in. And at times people have been able to hear it in the recordings and things of that, of how I step out, he will step in, and through the areas of the council, they would channel information to that particular individual that's listening, that for whatever it is.
Mhm. Well, you should take a lot of credit because you are the vehicle, you are the vessel
Yeah.
that it comes through. I think that's pretty good. Now, before counseling someone who sought you out for your guidance and advice, do you have any rituals or ceremonies you perform prior to the consultation?
Always. Each morning when I awaken, I go into the washroom and I stand before the mirror. I turn the water on and let the water, because the water of the prayers, and I see whether if it's a speak it, a creek, a river, ocean, or the sea, they all carry the same amount of energy. As I face that and I face the mirror, and who's looking back at me is God within me. And I said, I thank you for life today, Grant Mystery. I thank you for me, Ted. I thank you for my life protectors. And Mystery, help me not to cause you nor myself any embarrassments today, but open up my mind and help me to see what I am to see in preparing for a particular individual, or if it's for that day of counseling at a particular show, always with that water ceremony, always. I do that in preparing for that. Yes.
Ted, have you found that your clients ask certain questions more than others, and that certain areas are of more concern than others?
Business calls, basic of clients that I'm working with, businesses, is all about the business. Young people, surprisingly, as they've gotten younger, older, as we down the road, is basically people want to know about their jobs or about their career, love, relationships. More so, it used to be in the old days, is this man cheating on me or this one cheating on me? It's not like that anymore. You just see it's completely not frivolous. It's always pretty much they have their questions already down what they want to know. And this is why that, but everything is about how can I be a better person or things of that. Yeah.
Are there certain questions you will not address and prefer not to answer? And if so, what are they and what's your reasons for not wanting to address them?
How much time do I have to live? If a person is very, very ill, I'll be truthful because most of the time they know about the ticking clock. If they are very, very ill, I will be truthful about by saying, if I say prepare your bags, that means I won't say prepare your bags, but I would just say, why are you asking me this particular question? But pretty much, and of course, in the areas of dealing with bad things to people, I can take bad things off of people, or I will say it's all in your mind if it comes down to listening to their questions. If it's a thing, if it's in your mind, or I will look at all sides of everything and listening to the wisdom from spirit that comes through the subconscious to speak to me and to say, or if they step in, different story. But basically, I think that as far as what questions I would answer, um, I would, each one is on the merits of how they ask, but I want to
Mhm.
make sure it is something very clearly, but not to cause damage to that particular individual, in the person that I'm talking to or addressing.
I like your
Always.
approach. I agree with it.
Yeah.
What advice, Ted, or recommendation do you have for anyone who wants to develop their own spiritual intuitive abilities?
Meditation, meditation, meditation. Meditating means going within, listening to oneself, balancing self. Before you can give and call shots or answers, make sure you can answer your own within yourself of you being balanced as an individualist. This is most important. Never deal with a loser. A loser will only bring heartache, pain, and sorrow. And I'd say that to men and women, never ever. And that we are all are students of life on this earth. There's not a graduate among us here. As I your teacher, so you are mine. If you by chance meet someone that says, only follow and study from me, you're dealing with a fool. Stay away from that one. Move on. But if you're moving from one teacher to another, that is good. You take what is needed and move on. And I encourage people, don't just sit for me. Go someplace else. Because I may not have all the answers that you're seeking. It doesn't mean that I'm wrong, but I may not have those particular answers. Some people are trying to jump for a particular thing just to hear one point. And that's why you have certain TV shows that go in and say, oh, this person, she's hot, 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 because she's only there for a 10-minute TV show. But look at when we talk to people, whether we're at a show or in private with telephone conversation or whatever, we are there for 30 minutes or 45 minutes. We are there to provide answers. So this is why I say counsel, but counsel within reason. And I'm not here for people to say, will I be the millionaire next week? I don't have all those answers. That's pure luck.
Ted, amongst the many celebrities who have employed your services was, as I mentioned when I introduced you, Elvis Presley. What was he like in person when he is not on the stage?
Well, Johnny Cash was the first one. Johnny Cash recommended me after a particular reading in Montego Bay, Jamaica, where he flew me there to do a party for him. He was very, very unhappy with the reading. Matter of fact, he was about 8 minutes short. It was just 8 minutes time because he was very upset and for something that was said. And then he says, no, this is all wrong. And he left and he says, no. And, but 4 months later, what I had said, he called me, and 4 months later, it all came to pass and more. And then he said, I'm so sorry, I overjumped the gun, and I said some very bad things. And June says, I should have listened to the whole story. And his wife, June Carter, she says, you should have listened to what the whole story. And so with that, he sent me a beautiful bracelet. And also he recommended, and Elvis came through. Elvis, amazing person. I was not into Elvis in those days, but when it was another story within itself, how I got to read for him. But basically, when I sat down with him, and he says, is there anyone around me? And I didn't know about his mom. I was not into Elvis at all. I said, yeah, your mom is standing directly behind him. And she had those weepy eyes, you know. And I said, your mom is right there. Then he wanted, but he was always wanting to know about people around him, people that worked with him. And he was particular close friends with Muhammad Ali. And he always wanted to keep with Muhammad Ali and a guy by the name of Jackie Wilson, who was a performer in those days. I think they've all passed over now. But he was an amazing, very nice man. He was, and he's pretty, as you call that word, very intuitive himself. And I spent a lot of time reading photographs for him. And it was his idea, Elvis's idea of me starting with recording. It came with the cassette tape first. I didn't even know what is cassette tape, but he asked me every other month would I send him do readings, and he would send me photographs of people he wanted to know about and questions, but never talk about the Colonel.
Never.
Yes, sir. Never wanted. He never wanted. That was certain things. It was off limits.
Wow, that's pretty telling in itself.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, I'm sure that sometimes your consultations involve dealing with heavy situations, and that can be quite draining. What do you do to replenish those depleted energy levels?
I read through spirit, and once I finish, in other words, uh, I generate my, how can I say, basically, once I finish the evening, I go back to my room, and this is when I go into areas of meditation, and then ice cream cone. I know it sounds crazy. A bowl of ice cream was my thing. Would bring me down a bit, someplace, somewhere. If I go to dinner, I go dinner, but somewhere I would look for that scoop of ice cream for some reason. That's what would just take it away. And that's what I would do. You separate yourself right away. I don't go into anything until I go into the dream time. Now, at times in the dream time, I will be, by the council, they will discipline me, or they will say, we did not say this. You said 3 years, we said it would be 3 months or something, because you're trying to catch things as they come by. So that's why, if you notice on my slip of paper people sign, I've been noticed that I used that phone number. I'll call you back the next day. I said, look, I was in a dream time, and they told me that I jumped a gun, this, and this, and that, if that was the case. Or at the time that the man had problems with his heart, and he was thinking he was going to die. His wife was talking to me about it. And that night, not thinking, I went into dream time, and into the dream time, this man is standing, talking, and I'm walking in on a conversation. He has a white jacket, stethoscope. He's got this x-ray chart, and he's standing, he's talking, and I'm just joining the conversation. But that's how it starts about. You just walk in, but he's talking to me about this, and he says, and this is why that, because his medication has to be tweaked here and tweaked that. I said, oh my goodness, this is the guy that I was in the thing there. So the next morning, I called the man's wife. I said, no. I said, just tell him he has to go back to the doctor, and they have to tweak his medication, and he'll be good to go. And within a day or two, she called me back. That's what the doctor said, exactly. And the doctor, she used to laugh. She said, the doctor said tweak. It's like that. I said, great, yeah. Because sometimes, you're going through things so fast. But that's why always ask for a phone number if I have to call them back, because if something happened, or if I would see it in the dream time clearer, because we're only human. Yes.
I'm going to speak to you about something, Ted, now. I don't know if it's going to be in your memory bank or not, but it's mine, but it's important that I speak to you about it. Here goes. Okay. On February 1st, 2012, you were a guest on my show. On it, you spoke about a native prophecy concerning a powerful hurricane that would be coming that year. You said it would cause immense flooding and destruction, and you saw the tip of Manhattan covered in water. You wanted to warn my viewers who lived on shorelines to be prepared for the impending hurricane, and if they could, to move to higher ground. 8 months later, to be specific, October 22nd, 2012, Hurricane Sandy came along and did the destruction you predicted it would 8 months before it happened. This leads me to a two-part question I have for you. Number one, how upsetting, how frustrating was it for you that your warning about an impending flood was not heeded?
It hurt, because people see things as entertainment, but that's it. It's like this thing that we're going through now with this COVID thing. And it said this is a ghost. It's going to be a ghost. It's going to ghost away. It's going to come back. It could come back in a year's time. It could come back in 10 years. It's coming back. And, or in the year 2033, 34, this is when the floods will come again. And I say to young people, move to higher grounds at that time. And to move to Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, up in Calgary, beyond Calgary, higher up, that's where the young people should begin to settle, further west. Toronto is going to go down, correction, Ottawa will go down with islands bits. Adirondacks will be safe. The areas of certain areas of the Canadian Shield is going to be protected. Huntsville, that's going to be protected areas of that. That's coming. I may not be here, but the younger people will be here to see this. So this is why always build high in high areas this way. So people don't listen. People are, but yet someone like you would point it out, hey, it was already said. And that's good that people recognize it. But, you know, I hate to hear it says sad news and say, well, you were right. Yeah, but hey, who smelled the roses? Yeah.
Yeah, I could say I remember
Yeah.
that show, and how you were so strong about it. Move away, go to higher land,
Yeah.
and so many lives were lost. That property was you know was
Yes,
destruction to it,
definitely.
but people could have been saved, but they
Yeah.
didn't heed your words. So that's why I know, as sincere, which you are,
Yeah.
it had to be frustrating to you to know they should do it and they don't do it.
Right. Yeah.
And and you sort of answered I said I had a two-part question. This
Yeah.
is sort of part of it. I want to know if there are any other native prophecies you want to share, you want people to be aware of, and hopefully this time around your words will be heeded. Are there any others you'd want to share? Because what you just said was good advice too.
Oh yeah. I feel that the year 2020 that we're in, this is the new decade. But this is, we call it the 2 decades, 2020 to 2030, and from 2030 on, the women's time. Women in politics are going to be moving in places, in businesses. There can be within this first decade would be a woman prime minister, or a person of color would be prime minister in Canada. In the US, there can be a person that would be vice president, woman, and that would be within this decade. Um, the changes dealing with women in businesses, new businesses opening up. So yes, many good things coming with health advances are going to be coming more and more within this, because 2019 was endings, completions, letting go. All of this is new beginnings. So this is very important. Now, as far as the mask, during the flu seasons, people at the age of 50 to 60 on always have that mask with you at all times on your rearview mirror. So when you feel it, you must put it on. This is especially during the flu seasons. Very important this way. So these things are very good ideas to be, because it's still going to be around us, near us. So we got to be very diligently working in this area this way. And I feel that so much is going to be better in the near distant future. Um, Things dealing with police and things of that, that's going to be uh, much better dealt with, because it's brought a lot of attention. And even though I kind of feel that the particular officer in Minneapolis, I think it was a little bit more, if you notice, it was a personal thing. And I feel that both of the victim and the person that did it, it was a personal thing that would probably be found out pretty soon, more so than what happened. We'll see about that. But so many good things are gonna. I mean, bad things, tragedy, like what happened, but I think it's going to open up a lot to help people on, around the world bring attention to things of that. And the younger people that we have to look forward to, we have some brilliant minds. And again, women coming through, it's like when someone says to me once, why is it that it was always men that were the seers and tellers? I said, no, the most powerful seers and tellers were women. It's just that men didn't write about women, and men were writers in those days. That's why. But even in any community, most of your medicine women are very powerful, more so because they knew the gifts of healing. And so, and because why? Pretty much women think with their hearts and their minds. This is where my people are. Other people only think with the mind. But you have to do both, heart and mind together, and seeing into things, seeing things and questions, picking up things, observing constantly, because I read from energy. I read when a person comes into my space. Half the reading is already done, and when I pick up the energy, the second half goes through and I put it all together and put in the reading together. This is how it's supposed to be done that way. To observe constantly, always. Look where you expect not to see and you will see. And I always pray that I will make a difference in each person that comes to life. When they come to a show, come to a telephone interview, reading or something, to make a difference, to hear that. And usually maybe not each person, but at the end of the show, I know my partner at the time, she would always say, now, what difference did you make? And I would always pick a person or two or three. I knew that was the reason I was at that show. I was at that show. Yeah.
If any of my viewers would like to have a consultation with you, Ted, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of them, how do they go about contacting you?
I'm on Facebook, and I'm on tedsilverhand.com, and or was it 220? Was it 022 spiritman.com at gmail.com, and my phone number, of course, is 252 678 4333.
Yeah, Ted Silverhand, I thank you for being my guest on Paranormal Yacker. Yakking with you is always a pleasure. May the Great Spirit look kindly over you and protect you. Thank you for a great interview.
And may you always walk in beauty, my friend.
Hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the interview you just watched. So you don't miss any upcoming shows, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would love for you to join me and my guests as I yak with them on Paranormal Yacker.